So what helped me overcome my fear of learning EMDR? I decided to bet on myself. I had gotten EMDR therapy. I knew how powerful it was, and I knew I would overcome whatever hurdles I had to learning this therapy because I wanted to bring that to my clients. So I picked clients that I felt comfortable with, that I already had a good relationship with, and they were comfortable with me messing up, or so I thought anyway, right? And I read straight from the script. I got wonderful mentors that helped me learn how to do EMDR with kids, and that really boosted my confidence getting certified. And that's why I became an EMDR consultant, because I want to be that consultant that helps the therapist integrate EMDR into the practice, says it's okay, so you won't know where the cognitive interweave is, so you'll mess up, it's okay. Give yourself a chance. The protocol is robust. EMDR is so powerful. EMDR therapy is life-changing. And when it's life-changing, you as the therapist can take that journey because you know what you're going to be giving your clients: healing for life. And that's what they all want. So if you fumble or you stumble, it's okay. The clients will be forgiving. You are learning something super powerful, and that should make you work through whatever it is that's standing in the way for you.
My name is Ryan Christiansen. I am a licensed clinical social worker. I've been in practice for over 20 years and have been utilizing EMDR for a little over half of that time. I remember my training well, and I'm so grateful for the people who were my trainers and consultants in the process. I do remember having some, I think, typical fears and hurdles or barriers around becoming an EMDR practitioner. A lot of them is, do I have enough training? What if I break somebody? Do I really understand trauma? There's a lot of answers to those questions, but I think if we are sincerely seeking to become better therapists and we're actively engaged in our ongoing learning process, we will understand trauma. We will understand that people are largely resilient, and we will seek out the training that we need in order to keep our skills honed and fine-tuned. I do emphasize the process of living in consultation. It's a great blessing to have people who have gone through the process and taken the time, the effort, and invested the money to be consultants and trainers who really are invested in the process to help us as learners become better. EMDR has been taught to be a robust model. Just follow the recipe, and that'll get you through.
When I first became an EMDR therapist, my biggest fear was the weight of people's pain, especially here in Lebanon and the Middle East, where trauma isn't something from the past, it's something we still live every day. I was afraid of not being able to hold it all with enough strength and compassion. What helped me was staying connected to supervision, to my colleagues, and to the heart of EMDR itself. Trust in the process, in the brain ability to heal, and in the power of a human connection. Every time I witnessed a moment of relief, a breath of peace, it reminded me why this work matters. As Francine Shapiro said, if you believe in something, help prove it to the world. And don't give up. Suffering people are depending on us to find the best way for them to heal. That's what keeps me going, knowing that every small step, every session can bring a bit more peace and hope where it's most needed.
My biggest fear when I became an EMDR therapist was that I would do something wrong or that I would cause significant harm to a client. Those fears were greatly decreased by my time in consultation. Our private practice does a really good job in supporting therapists, connecting them to good consultants, connecting them to good trainings. And it was in those trainings that I learned that we follow the protocol. We ask them to notice that we're able to sit with our uncomfortableness in the sessions to allow them to get them where they need to go. We help guide them, we lead the session, but at the end of the day, it's their brain that helps get them where they need to go. And so we just merely guide them, and consultation trainings really helped me understand that and take the pressure off of me getting everything right and making sure I'm doing things perfectly.
Hi, my name is Kathleen Fitzgerald. I'm a approved consultant and trainer, and I'm so glad to talk about how hard it was to get comfortable using EMDR. I'll bet you after my basic training, it took me a year before I really started using EMDR and doing phases 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I did safe, calm place with everybody, strangers on the street. I'm teasing, I didn't do that, but I wanted to. But really getting into the trauma, that took a long time. And so what I did was I got really good supervision and really good mentoring. And I realized that most of the people that I wanted to work with or that I was working with had deep attachment trauma. And so learning how to use EMDR differently was really important. And one of the most significant things I did was I became a certified EFT, an emotionally focused therapist. And that really helped me combine both things. And then I went on to become certified in EMDR and IFS through the Bruce Hersey, the Syzygy work. And so I wish that there was an easy solution, or that there was a don't worry, just do this and it'll all work out. But I think it means trusting yourself, knowing that you know what you know, and then getting the support you need to do the things you want to do. And for me, it meant deeply diving into attachment work and getting the support I needed to do that well. Because those folks can really have a hard time. Those little T traumas, they're tough. So yeah, I hope that that's helpful. Because now I use EMDR regularly with all of my folks with attachment issues, but it's because I'm super well supported, and I still get a lot of support in those areas. So I hope you're doing well. Thank you so much. I hope that that's helpful.
Hi, I'm Guindin, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker in the state of Tennessee. I specialize in treating trauma and working with new moms throughout the perinatal period, and I often use EMDR as my primary modality when working with my clients. I was trained in EMDR in 2018, and in 2023, I became an EMDR certified therapist. When I first started, my biggest fear in becoming an EMDR therapist was that I might do something wrong, or that I'd somehow harm a client, or just not guide the process perfectly. EMDR felt very different than traditional talk therapy, and at first, it was hard to trust the structure and let go of control. And so what helped me was actually doing my own therapy and EMDR work. Experiencing it personally allowed me to understand on a deeper level how the nervous system just naturally moves towards healing when given space and safety. And over time, I learned to step back and trust the process and my clients' innate resilience. Now, instead of fearing that I will do harm, I focus on creating safety and staying present and letting their system do what it was always wired to do, which is heal.
My name is Anusree Gupta. I'm a licensed therapist in Texas and Washington State. I'm also an EMDR approved consultant. My biggest fear in becoming an EMDR therapist was, how am I going to use this new modality with my clients, and how am I going to integrate it in my practice? What helped me the most was consultation, and that's exactly why I decided to become an EMDR consultant, because of the huge difference it made for my practice and my clients. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Patricia Hanley. I'm an EMDRIA approved trainer since whenever they started approving us. I was basic trained in 2014. And yeah, I was terrified when I first finished basic training that the course, I felt overwhelmed by all the information. I also realized I had a perfectionist tendency and went and had my own EMDR done, which really helped learn EMDR and helped update that perfection to I can be human and make mistakes, which helped me in my practice. I also was hesitant to do anything that I learned in the training. So what I did is I just pulled out one script, which happened to be RDI, Resource Development Installation, and I worked with one client, it went great. Worked with another client, went great, got competent, pulled out container, did that, calm place. And so I built my practice based on one script or one tool at a time. When I did finally get to processing, I stayed in restricted processing, probably 6 months or more, 10 seconds or less on one target at a time. It's much more manageable for new EMDR clinicians. The other good tool, if I'm not going to run out of time, is know where you are and you can't get lost. Note to self, I'm going to see John at 4 o'clock and I'm in phase 2 and I need to build a container today. Let me get that script out. Or I'm in reevaluation with Janet at 6 and I'm going to get that script out so you don't have the whole pile of papers there in front of you. Hope this helps. Good luck. Thanks.
Hello, EMDRIA colleagues. I'm Marta Hatter, licensed clinical social worker. I'm in California. My private practice is in Irvine. I love this question. I think this is the most fun question. I was trained back in 2001, and when I was trained, it was not commonly known that EMDR is amazing. And several of my colleagues were like, that's kind of like hocus pocus, what are you doing, etc. So when I went to training, I really hoped it was what I'd been told it was. I had run a residential treatment program in Orange County, California for system kids. And one of the therapists in my program was early EMDR trained. She was trained in the late 90s. So through her and supervising her, I learned the amazing results of EMDR, so I wanted to be trained. So when I went to be trained, I had these mixed feelings like, oh boy, I hope this is effective. I hope this is effective. So I was in Los Angeles for the several-day training, and I remember on Sunday afternoon, they had, I guess it was a practicum, where they divided us up, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and they had you actually do it. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, there's no way I'm going to go over a real issue with this guy that I hardly know, right? So I thought, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? So my target issue was my anxiety about trying EMDR on my clients. And it was so interesting because I thought, but they're my guinea pigs. So when I started, I was all about, is this fair? How can I do this? I don't even know how to do this. How can I do this to my clients? What if they're upset? And after a few sets, I started like making worksheets and doing it. Anyway, it totally worked for me. And I was completely calm. I could hardly wait to start EMDR. So it proved itself. And I love that you asked this question. Nice to see you all. Bye-bye.
Hello, my name is Kristi Lebeau-Cline, formerly Lebeau. I am a clinical director at an outpatient facility in Utica, Michigan, and I also am the founder of a training and consulting company for EMDR. I usually tell my story to my consultees and trainees to kind of give them hope in the model and start them off on the right foot. In 2008, I was an intern at my current facility, and I trained in EMDR at the end of my internship in 2008, and it was split into 2 weekends, part 1 and part 2. So I took part 1, and I did some EMDR with some success, but still felt it was a little rigid and inflexible and hard to present to the clients themselves. And in my training, I felt a little skeptical during, and we switched things up where we did tapping on my hands. My partner tapped on my hands, and I also changed up the memory. And I drove home that day bawling my eyes out, but it was the most freeing, releasing cry I've ever had. So I knew there was magic, but I didn't know quite how to deliver it comfortably. So in 2011, at my boss's nudging, I repeated the full training, the 5-day, and then I ended up joining consult groups with my company, which proved to be such an awesome tool. I think it was the one thing that really propelled me because I saw how creative everybody could be with the model. And it made it a little more comfortable and made me able to really deliver it to clients in a way that felt authentic. So, if you're looking for a way to really get comfortable with the model, I say infuse yourself. And that is how I really got here and became a trainer, just fell in love with the idea that EMDR could be creative.
Hi, I'm Claire Maurer. I got trained in EMDR therapy in 2006 before we had required consultation. And I think the biggest obstacles for me as I got started was sort of finding that sweet spot between being completely avoidant and terrified of getting started and introducing EMDR therapy to clients. And then sort of on the other hand, maybe winging it, a tendency to sort of wing it without really being grounded in the model and knowing what I was doing next. Just going off of what I thought I heard in the training. So for me, the way out of that, that little impasse that I was in was just to make Francine's book my best friend. I had the second edition back then, but to really go back to the book, back to my manual, and then also to seek out an amazing consultant and mentor to pursue certification. That helped me feel like I was moving forward with really good fidelity to the model. And in turn, that helped me see results over and over again with the clients that I was able to introduce it to. And that was just a positive feedback loop that got me to where I was just full steam ahead with EMDR therapy and not looking back.
Not being good enough has been and sometimes still is one of my biggest fears as an EMDR therapist. I am working on it, trying to practice the best I can, having supervision, training myself, doing my own therapy, and surrounding myself with other EMDR therapists with I can exchange my expertise with, and having motivation from all of them. I guess education, work, training, having a strong community are the most important resources to improve my work.
Hello everyone, my name is Claudia Ocampo. I'm an LPC-S in the state of Texas and RPT-S, and I am also an EMDR approved consultant. So when I think about becoming an EMDR therapist, the word that comes to mind is transformation, not just for my clients, but for myself as well. I know at the beginning when I started learning EMDR, I was scared. I was scared that I was going to do it wrong. I was scared what if I know how to contain a session. I was scared of the subconscious that was going to come to the surface in sessions, right? But I knew there was people out there that had been doing this longer than me and that were better than me, at least at that point. And so then I just surrounded myself with community. I surrounded myself with mentors and peers and consultation until I felt confident and curious and calm whenever I was with my clients. I realized it was really about presence, about being attuned to my clients and holding space for them from this place of connection and compassion. So EMDR is less about doing it right and more about being with, being grounded, being curious, being present. So if you're starting your EMDR journey, right, know that growth happens in the becoming an EMDR therapist. So keep showing up, keep staying present, keep staying curious, and you're just evolving as a healer, and this is part of your process. So I also want to thank EMDRIA for creating community, for creating a space with the SIGs, with the conferences, where we can connect with each other. And so welcome to the EMDR family.
The biggest hurdle for me in getting EMDR trained and certified was definitely my insecurity. Insecurity due to my age, due to like my status. I was midway through my career about 8 years ago when I got trained, and insecurity really due to the fact that I hadn't really been in a learning situation recently. And so the way I got around that hurdle is I picked a training that I only had to go and learn for 2 days, and then my brain got a break from all that learning and got to just try to put into practice what I had learned for a month, and then I would go back for another 2 days of training, and then again another month off. So we did that over 4 2-day weekends with a month in between. And so that gave me a really good opportunity to just practice. I would write up little cheat sheets for myself. I would give discounts to attract new clients I could practice with. And I just really gave myself the grace to make mistakes and, be okay with being a little slower than some of my peers who were in the training. And truly, I was one of the older people in the room. It did take me a little bit longer than some of the other people in the room to learn it. But, with that extra time, with that extra permission I gave myself, I was able to learn it. And then, of course, after training, hiring several consultants, I got a consultant for some of the different target populations I was working with. One that was an expert in veterans, one that was an expert in eating disorders and whatnot, so that I could learn how to do EMDR with all the different populations I was working with. So really just giving myself the grace to make mistakes, to be in that learning place again, and then to provide myself with that extra support in the form of consultants and a training schedule that really worked for me is how I overcame it.
Hi, I'm Megan. I'm an EMDR therapist in Portland, Oregon. When I first started using EMDR, my biggest fear was that I might somehow do it wrong, that I'd use the approach incorrectly and end up causing my client more distress. The idea of unintentionally adding to my client's pain that they already carry around, it felt really scary. What helped me through that fear was my EMDR consultant. Always met me with encouragement and compassion, very non-judgmental, and never made me feel, judged or anything for being new to using EMDR. Over time, I've learned that becoming an EMDR therapist isn't about doing everything perfectly. It's about staying open, learning from every experience, and trusting both the process and trusting myself. Learning EMDR has been definitely one of the hardest things I have done as a mental health clinician, but it has also been one of the most meaningful and the modality that has really affected the most change on my clients' lives. I'm so grateful for other consultants I have met with along the way and colleagues that have supported me. I'm grateful for EMDR itself because EMDR truly changes lives.
So I trained with Francine Shapiro in EMDR in 2000, and it was a lot. There's so many things that I needed to learn how to do, and I'd already been doing psychotherapy for quite a long time. I had lots of training in working with couples and families, and now integrating this new model into the things that I already knew, it just felt like a lot for me to handle. So I followed Francine's advice, and I got into case consultation. And so if you're feeling stuck, if you're feeling like there's a hurdle, if you're feeling like you really need support, case consultation is the way to go. And you can never get enough of it. 25 years I've been doing it. I'm going to keep doing it because why not? It just really makes things a lot easier. You're a lot more effective and more eyes on the things that it's sometimes really important to see other perspectives from. So please get into case consultation.
I think my biggest fear about becoming an EMDR therapist was the fear of getting it wrong, more so the fear of making the client's symptoms worse. Not fully understanding the process, even though I know it works, created some uncertainty in me or a lack of confidence to be able to deliver the protocol as outlined and then to trust that process. What helped me through it was maintaining regular supervision with my certified EMDR supervisor, and I have her on speed dial anytime that I'm stuck. So yeah.
I think my biggest hurdle in becoming confident and effective in using EMDR at the time when I went through basic training, some of my biggest fears I had to overcome was I was serving in community mental health, and many of my clients were emotionally dysregulated. And there was a lot of misinformation about EMDR from the people around me, like my peers and even the agencies that I served. And so while I was in basic training, I ran across a coach, and for the next 3 years, I participated in bi-weekly consultation. You know, the other thing that she did that I felt like was really pivotal in my growth, she invited me to the international conference. And at the conference, I was able to learn how to adapt EMDR with a variety of populations. And then, of course, this helped me gain more confidence in using EMDR. And then today, I just have to pinch myself because it's hard for me to believe that now I'm that coach and I'm that trainer for thousands of others.
Hi, I'm Sarah Tillotson. I am an EMDR therapist in Central New York, and I was trained in April of 23, and I am currently working towards my certification, which should be complete by the end of this year, so just a few more months. What's really helped me overcome my fear of doing it wrong or boosting my confidence is a few things. I have a great consultant. So the 10 hours of consultation through EMDRIA at the beginning, you know, just after training was really good because I was able to pick different people, quite a diverse group, and got a lot of good ideas from different people that way. Also, the Thomas Zimmerman book, Complex Trauma, has helped a lot. Basically, he validates that a lot of our clients have complex trauma, and it's not cookie cutter like it felt like in training. And phases 1 and 2 sometimes take a lot longer than we anticipate. So consultation, I have group consultation monthly and individual consultation monthly now that really help. And being able to reach out when I have questions, that has also boosted my confidence. So thank you so much. Have a great day.
When becoming an EMDR therapist, my biggest fear was that I'd have to relearn everything, that I had to just put aside all my skills as a therapist and start something brand new. That couldn't have been further from the truth. EMDR incorporates lots of different techniques that have been long established for many years and have plenty of research to validate them. So that was really reassuring, knowing that we were building on what we already know as a therapist and just offering the client even more. So that was a great learning point.
Good morning. My name's Sarah Watt, and I have been trained in EMDR since 2016. I recently decided to pursue certification and have had some fears about implementation, being certified, specifically around difficult complex trauma cases where there's multiple different ego states present or parts. It's a language commonly used with IFS. Also applying it in an outpatient setting now that I am primarily private practice. There's been some concerns as to how to keep people engaged and present throughout the process in each of the stages. So having my consultation with my consultant was extremely important and beneficial for me to gain a confidence in being able to implement EMDR in this setting and continue my work independently. I'm extremely excited to be certified and to be able to provide EMDR to the community, and I really appreciate the time and being able to speak on this.